Hi, it's Kathleen from Bailey Academy, mom of 5, homeschooling 3 of them, ages 10, 13, and 17. Today I wanted to talk about planning for my current grade 8's high school year next year. And I wanted to give a little background information for anybody who's, not seen a whole bunch of my videos yet, but this won't take long if you have. So I started homeschooling technically in 2007, 2008, but I homeschooled preschool for my two older girls, and then we ended up changing our mind. Well, not changing our mind. I always wanted to homeschool, but we ended up sending the kids to school for kindergarten because of my health issues. It wasn't until 2021 that we ended up bringing them home again. I had honestly never thought it was an option until my husband suggested it, and we had done, in 2020, obviously, they came home and they, missed some of their school. And then in 2021, they did virtual school. 2020 to 2021, they did virtual school, which did not go well. And then 2021 to 22, they started, I might be saying the wrong year. Whatever. Anyways, they did half a year of going back to school, and we didn't like it for various reasons. We started bringing home our kids for one of my teenagers' health issues, but we ended up keeping them home for many other issues, and not issues, reasons. Anyways, my point is that although I homeschooled preschool, I didn't homeschool all the way through. So this year I'm graduating my current grade 12 from homeschool high school. She didn't do all of high school as homeschool, but almost. She just missed the first semester of grade 9. She did in school, and the rest she did homeschool. So I'm not new to homeschooling high school. However, this will be my first time of entering one of my homeschool children directly into grade 9 and planning right from the start what classes they will take and stuff like that. And also, obviously, every child is different, so it's not like I can just do exactly what worked with my my current grade 12. I have to do what works for my son. I'll just say my son. It makes it a lot easier. Okay, so what I did was I sat down with him and had a meeting. Now, he isn't fully diagnosed with everything, but most likely has learning disabilities, most likely has autism, and definitely already has ADHD and auditory processing disorder. So he has some issues, but I think he's actually 2E, which if you don't know means gifted as well as learning disabled. So he's super smart in some things, but also has trouble with other things as well. Sometimes it's the same thing, like math. Math, he can do large sums in his head, but also struggles with reading, the textbook and following along and picking the question and putting it together. Like, he needs assistance. So I obviously, like I said, all children are different, so I need to do things a little differently than I did with my current grade 12, who works very independently. So I sat him down, got my cactus notebook, and made some notes, which I'll share some of with you. He doesn't mind. So basically I asked him some questions such as confirming that he does like to work either with me or alone. He doesn't want to do family style with his sister very much. Talked about time for school. So right now we start school at 10. We get up at 9. We get ready for school and start at 10. It's very hard for my younger two to get moving because they have sleep issues. So I told them, you know what, when you're in high school, and even your sister, like next year, even though she's not in high school, she'll be the only grade schooler, you can get up whenever you want, as long as you're not getting up using electronics and then doing school. No, if you want to sleep in, fine. You sleep in, get up at 11, get ready for school, start at 12, that's fine by me, but electronics are after school. So if he wants to start at 12, he can, as long as he realizes he'll be working later. And then I asked him, I said, when I was in school, we did 8 classes all year long because we were in terms. And your older sisters, did 4 classes for half a year, different 4 classes for the other half a year for semesters. I said, we're homeschooling, we can do whatever we want. What would you prefer? And he chose 4 classes half a year. So that if it's a class he doesn't like, he can be done with it in 4 classes. Done with it in half a year, even though it explained to him that means you do like longer classes. So I told him that based on, but I chose for what he needs to do. I basically looked at the public school, but also adjusted it for what, because we don't have to follow the public school, and we don't have requirements here in Ontario. So I decided that he needs to do math, English, a health PE credit, Canadian geography, a second language, an arts credit, a science credit, and either this year or next year a tech credit. So this is what we decided on. I told him, like, as you get older, you get to choose more of your own, what you would like to do. But that doesn't mean he can't have a say. For example, math is going to be math. It's going to be algebra, most likely. And then that's, or we'll maybe even start algebra this year and, like, finish algebra. That's not a problem. English. Okay, English can be, obviously, as if you're a homeschooler, you're watching this, you probably already know this, but it can be lots of things like grammar, sometimes spelling, not usually in high school, but spelling, writing or composition, reading, literature, that, all those sorts of things. And so I asked him, like, obviously I have the final say in what I think he needs to learn, but he obviously doesn't need spelling. I've never homeschooled him spelling because he's always been a natural speller. So that's not, we don't need that. And then the main concern is that literature. He despises reading fiction. And I've been making him, and I realized recently, why am I making him? Because I feel like that's something you do in school. However, we didn't homeschool, so we could do everything you do in school. So lately, the last half of this year, he's reading nonfiction. He's still practicing reading, which he doesn't need to anyway. He's still, I'm not really doing, like, sometimes I just let him read, and sometimes I do, like, comprehension questions or whatever. So I have things that you can use. I have papers that I printed and got from online that you use with any nonfiction text, so that I can easily, when I do want to ask him a question, it's not like I have to do it for that specific book. I can do it for any book. And so if I want to do comprehension, I can do it that way, although he does struggle with comprehension, which one means he needs to practice it, two, also just hard for him. So we're not going to do a literature course, that's for sure. And if I do feel we need to do literature at some point, maybe when he's older. But for now, I'm going to figure out what I need to focus on. And it occurred to me that I still haven't taught him cursive. And so, yes, and that's not usually done in high school, but I do want him to learn cursive. So we will focus on cursive, and we will do some nonfiction book studies, and if we do books at all, and focusing more on writing. We're focusing on writing this year, but next year, writing is a big thing, and he's definitely not writing essays, so we need to work on that. Just a sec. Sorry about that. Okay. So I'm still doing more, in depth. And if anybody's wondering about curriculum, if you don't already know, I do a lot of my own curriculum. I create my own curriculum, or I use free or cheap resources from the internet. Freedom Homeschooling is an awesome website for finding free resources and free curriculum, sometimes like full curriculum that's completely free, even for high school. And also Teachers Pay Teachers, which I do sell a few things on, and I plan to make more for, but I do buy some from resources from other people there too, and there's lots of free ones there too. So there's lots of free things. Most of the curriculum I've used, I've either gotten free or gotten for review, like, things like that, but I don't have the funds to spend hundreds of dollars on each subject per each child. It's just not going to work for me. But I like to make it myself anyway, so. For health and PE, he despises that, and I told him, I'm sorry, but you have to take it. I have a couple things I'm looking at. I haven't decided, and I will do more, obviously, like, next year's still a ways away, so, like, I'll be doing, discussion videos on different things I'm looking at and how I chose them, but he definitely needs some phys ed, and I found a couple free and paid choices that I like, and of course free is better for me, so I might go with the free. But I have some choices for that so that he can do that. And then Canadian geography, I don't know what we're using for that yet. He's doing Canadian history this year, like grade 8 Canadian history, and we've talked a lot about Canadian geography, but obviously there's lots more he can learn, so I'll probably just put that together myself, but I don't know yet. For a second language, it's always recommended that you do the same second language at least 3 years in a row when you're in high school. So we discussed language. He has struggles with the second language, which is common when you have learning disabilities, but because he can't, he said, like, we've been learning French, and this year we're learning Spanish, but we've been learning French, the beginning, basics of French, for years, and he's still not putting a sentence together. So I was like, okay, that's good that you recognize that and are able to articulate that to me. So I was like, if you don't particularly care which one you learn, I recommend Spanish, because I know a bit of Spanish. Like, I'm certainly not fluent in it, but I know some Spanish, and I love Spanish, and I love teaching, and I have lots of resources for it. I was like, if you don't mind that, then just do Spanish for 3 years. I said, and it's okay if we learn the basics for 3 years, as long as we're doing a foreign language for, if you do want to go to college one day, you have that on your thing. And I said, if you never go to college and that's not your path, and you don't care to ever use a foreign language or become fluent, that's okay. I told him that learning a second language is good for your brain. So it'll help him with memory and recall and things like that. I guess recall's memory, but I told him that it was good for him. So he was going to do a second language, but he could pick. So we decided to just go with Spanish. And again, I probably would put that together myself, but I don't know for sure. For his arts, we discussed it at length, because he does not like art either. Getting a theme here, he doesn't like a lot of things. So I said, what about he doesn't want to create art. I said, I can't guarantee you would never create art, because sometimes you'd create art in like another class, but if you don't want to create art like all the time or whatever, then you don't want. And I backtrack. I told him at first, I said, you can do anything kind of art. I said, like photography, like doesn't be like drawing, painting, but he doesn't like that either. So I said, what about like a history, like an art history or a music history? I said, which do you dislike less, art or music? And he would prefer to do music. So we're going to do a music history class, but he doesn't like modern music. So we're going to do an ancient, not really a lot of music in ancient times, but that's what he called it, ancient music history. So like, older music history, from Gregorian chants to wherever we stop. So I'm looking for resources. Free curriculum is cool too, but even just resources for music history. I've found a bunch already, but if you have any to share, please join them. Let me try that again. If you have any resources to share, please put them in the comments. I would love to check them out. Paid ones as well, because sometimes they have free resources, or I can, find a way to pay for it sometimes, depending on how expensive it is. But free ones especially. So that's what we're going to do for his arts credit. And for science, I haven't decided yet if I want to do, the typical biology and chemistry and physics, because that's going to be, chemistry and physics going to be really hard for him. And does he need it if he's not planning to go to college? I don't know. So I would love some guidelines here. If your child is not planning to go to college, probably very highly unlikely that he would ever go to college, would you bother doing chemistry and physics? Or would you just pick some other ones, like say biology, earth science, life science, or I don't know, biology, life science, those sorts of things? Or would you, because I thought maybe he might like forensics or something. Or would you just do general science, do a couple of years, however many years I decided required of general science, and kind of touch bases on a few things? What do you guys think? What would you choose for a high schooler not planning to go to college? I'm not sure about that yet. And finally, not finally, but finally for the list, his tech, he would like to do that this year. And, but there's a lot of, he's very good with tech. He uses computers. He's used them since he was little. He figures out how to do things on them on his own, and stuff. And he's into coding, but only Roblox coding, which he already knows how to do, so he doesn't need to learn that. So the only thing we can come up with is Blender, the modeling animation program, not a Blender. He already uses it, but he struggles to get what he wants accomplished on it, I guess. And so he finds, he said a video would be better. He doesn't want to, do a course on it, because, he doesn't like online courses as much. But maybe just, I found, I don't have it written down here, but I found a YouTuber who does Blender tutorials, and so he could pick through and find okay, this tutorial I know how to do that, I skip that. Okay, this tutorial I don't know how to do that, or I'm not as good at it. Pick one and work on it, and now he could even be working on something he likes, but still count it as a credit, as long as he's doing enough work to count it. So I'm looking into that. If not, I'll find a tech thing, but he's done a lot of tech things, and he gets really frustrated because they're too easy for him usually. We also discussed learning style, and we never came up with an exact learning style, but that he thinks he is, or that I think he is, because I always thought that he wasn't an auditory learner because of his auditory processing disorder, but he does seem to do better when I read to him or when I do math with him. So I think it's just that he needs to have the complete silence and no distractions, but he does have more of an auditory learner. But he did mention that when he watches a video, if they talk too fast or too strong an accent, he has a hard time understanding them. I did said, you do know you can slow down the videos. He's like, yeah, I know, but that's too much work. So when I find videos for him for his classes, I'm supposed to find ones that are slower and have less of an accent if possible, so that he can fully comprehend what he's learning. We briefly discussed possible jobs in the future. We're still not entirely sure. Only thing he can come up with is a Roblox game developer, but I'm just worried about the fact that, who knows if Roblox will be around when he's older, so I don't know if that makes any sense. But I mean, it's an idea. And then we talked about, like, what kind of job could he get as he's become, he's a teenager, right? So, like, he can get a job soon, or if he can handle it. But I know that he struggles with lots of things, so what kind of job would he think he could do? And we don't have a full idea, but we did decide that it has to be a slow-moving job. He's not a quick person, and he doesn't have a good memory, so something like you have to learn something and then remember it the next time would be hard. So he couldn't do, like, fast food or something like that. But we haven't exactly come up with the right thing yet, but we'll figure it out. So those are basically the notes that I made, and I wanted to share with you, if I should have said this at the beginning, but I want to share with you because some of you have children who are going to be going into high school, if not next year, then soon, and some of you have already done high schoolers, so you know what to do, but if you haven't, this was my suggestion for how to plan. Depending on your maturity of your child, you can give them more or less say in what they do. But as a high schooler, they need to have a say. It's not, just like when you go to high school in, say, a public school or a private school, you get a little more, not so much in grade 9, but a little bit more say in what you do, and they also give you more responsibility for that sort of thing as well. So you have to be in charge of doing your homework or schoolwork or whatnot. So I want to try to get him, I've been trying to get him, not just like next year, but like we tried using agendas. That doesn't really work, but I think it'll work better for next year because we're doing more like separate things instead of just here's the next thing. I don't know. I don't think of anything else I wanted to say. I'm both scared and excited for next year. I'm mostly excited, but I wrote down on my paper 2025 to 2026, which already sounded crazy because it's just barely 2025. And then I wrote down my kids will be in grade 6 and grade 9, which that's only 2 children. So next year I have to say I'm homeschooling. I have 5 children, I'm homeschooling 2 of them, so that's going to be weird for me. And 2, the fact that my youngest ones are in grade 6 and grade 9, that just sounds like grades that only my older kids have ever been in. Well, they obviously have, but I mean, like, it just sounds weird that my youngest child's going to be in grade 6. I know, some of you understand. And a lot of you have, I don't know who, like everybody who watches me, but the people I watch anyway, a lot of them have lots of children, and so their youngest children are still very young. But when you get to that stage where your youngest child is older, it's going to be weird. So, yeah, I have 5 children, but 2 of them are adults. 1 is almost an adult. Will be in a few months, and then a grade 6 and a grade 9 next year. So very odd to me. I don't think I'm that old, but apparently I am. Anyway, that's it for today. If you have any suggestions for anything you think that we could use for our chosen subjects, or any comments on specifically how to do science or anything about English, tech ideas, Canadian geography, anything like that would be awesome. I know it's hard to find Canadian geography, especially that isn't like, costing a fair amount because there isn't too many choices. So that's why I think I'll probably do it myself, which, by the way, let me know if you guys are interested in a video on how I plan my own curriculum, because a lot of people have commented that they think it's cool. I don't know if anybody's actually interested in doing it, or I just want to see how I do it, or need some suggestions on it. So let me know. I might make a YouTube video showing my tricks for how to come up with syllabus and how to find actual activities for them, how I plan it all out. I would love to share that if you guys are interested. Alright, that's it for today. Bye.